be?
I don't know.
Container.
I don't know.
Should be a huge, like, 112 container in your, like, somewhere on the floor right there.
Okay.
It's not over there?
Yeah, I see it. It's right here.
Is it brown?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is, what is that in there? Okay. Do you have a clean pipe?
I guess.
Let me get you a clean pipe. You're going to want something that's bigger than that.
I don't know what's happening here.
Circus.
What?
We're doing some show production. Okay. Behind the scenes, green room style. You got lighters?
Yep.
You need a water?
Nope.
Okay. Ready? Okay, yes.
Ready. I was trying to be ready before that, but apparently, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it's fun to do stuff yourself. Other times, okay. Are you Rachel? You're frozen.
We're all frozen.
We're all frozen?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. This is the worst ever. Okay. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to breathe deep. It's going to be all right. It most definitely is. Hold on.
Hello. What's happening?
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't want to let me
all right.
connect without using their Wi-Fi, which is the whole reason why I came over early to try and make it work.
Hold on. I forgot my drink.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's just because I don't.
Oh my God.
I keep trying to tell people, like, I don't pay extra for that extra shit on my phone. I don't pay unlimited. I'm like,
I have no idea what's happening. What's up, party people?
So, yeah.
Everything just seems like it keeps freezing. I'm not sure if it's on my end or not. I did have troubles yesterday.
Okay. Who knows? Who knows?
Heyo.
Oh, no.
Okay. What? Are you cutting out?
It does not like this at all.
Okay. Whew. Well, the good news is I've got to have my man, Caleb, my local interweb guy. He's going to come by tomorrow. He's got to do some work on my other.
Haunting me.
What? Okay. He's going to come by and he's going to try to modify my older computers.
Anime theme song stuck in my head. It's super complicated and it's another language, so I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't know. We have so many, because Gina, it's not just you. Trust me. Me and Rachel spent about a good 40 minutes to an hour working on her machinery today. So it's not just you, definitely. Last night, she had to try like 6 or 7 times before she could get her live to work. It was like, it's ridiculous. but I'm working on a new tool. I'm working with a new tool that stream elements that you see up in the corner there. I'm working with that, and hopefully it's going to be a lot easier. It's actually not going to cost anything, and we can actually make our streams look way better than they do now. Because I'm sitting here looking at a freaking $2,600 computer. All right, and that's all cool and all. But your iPhone 6 is putting out a better picture. That's the craziness of it.
I don't tell you.
It's one day, you know what? One day when we're bazillionaires and we're famous on the internet and we've been murdered, people are going to say, I remember when they couldn't get their StreamYard shit together. I remember that one time. It was like a whole week of their shit just being fucked up.
It was like, I quit watching them.
But yeah, you know what? I think because here's what's crazy. Our streams work individually, but they don't work together. And me and Gina are actually on the same Wi-Fi, and it's like the commercial Wi-Fi. But anyway, freaking, how is you guys' weeks going so far? It's summer. It's fucking hotter than two balls rubbing together everywhere.
Not that hot. That's tomorrow.
Well, it's not that hot, but I've noticed since I've moved here that I've actually become pussified because, like, it was like 80 degrees today. I almost melted. Now, me and Rachel used to live in freaking Bakersfield. It would regularly be 85 degrees after dark. No problem. Now, dude, this shit's killing me. I feel like a chocolate bar that you left in the car on the freaking dash.
Melted.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to BJ Herberger. He's the guy behind the Handmade Company. He's the guy that makes all the dabbers and the freaking keychains and shit like that. Pretty sweet stuff. I've been trying to freaking get with him all week, but due to fucking various and sundry shit happening, I have not been able to get with him, but I will get with him soon. Because hopefully I'd like to freaking carry some of his items in our shop and in our store. So, and you don't know this, but I was telling Rachel earlier when I was helping her with her computer that in our store, freaking one of my old associates has been monitoring our store, freaking doing a report on it, freaking seeing what people do when they go there, what they're looking at, and all that stuff. And so in the next 5 to 10 days, she's going to totally revamp our store for us and give us some marketing tools so we can freaking bust that store out. And hey, just think, people could be walking around with your face on their shirt.
That's weird.
I know, it's weird.
Like, that's weird.
It's kind of like tattooing somebody's name on you. You know what I'm saying? Is there a jinx behind that?
Yes.
Because most of the people I know on t-shirts are dead or they're missing.
Isn't that the whole reason why they're on the t-shirt?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe.
Just saying.
You got me there because, yeah. Well, now that we've gotten all the nonsense out of the way, hopefully Rachel will come back to us. She's having problems with her thing there. This is crazy. I don't know why it's like this, and don't worry. It's not anything that you guys are doing. I got a $2,500 piece of plastic here, and it's still not doing what's supposed to do in this fucking StreamYards. But anyway, let me bring everybody up to speed on what's going on. There she is. Let me bring everybody up to speed on what's going on. We've got we've been talking about growing. We started out with your space. Then we went on and we talked a little bit about lighting. And now we're going to talk about one of the forms of medium that you can use. To me, the most important one, but not necessarily the best one. We're only going to talk about it in new grower terms. So we're only going to talk about 3 types of soil. Garden soil, which is the soil that you buy from Home Depot, and it says garden soil on it. It doesn't have any nutrients. It doesn't have anything extra. All it is composted wood, leaves, and dirt. That's pretty much all it is. The second kind of soil we're going to talk about is commercial soil. And when I say commercial soil, I mean Fox Farm, 707, Pro Mix, whatever. And those soils are great. There's not one of them that's any better than any other. All it is dirt with additional nutrients in it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's different people that swear by different soils, and I can totally understand that. But one of the main reasons why they swear by that soil is A, because they know how to deal with it when their pH goes up and down, or it's always on sale, which I totally support. So, and then there's a third kind of soil. And this soil, I want to make it abundantly clear that there's nothing wrong with it. It can still be used, but you got to do some stuff to it. And for lack of a better term, I call it yard dirt. And what I mean is the dirt that's in your yard. You can use it. It's as long as you have green grass and stuff grows in your yard, you can use your yard dirt. But you would probably want to amend it or freaking condition it, add some nutrients to it. But at the end of the day, it can still be used.
Yep.
Now, we're not talking about, when I say soil types, we're not talking about sandy loam. We're not talking about clay. We're not talking about dirt, because we're talking to new growers and all that stuff is fine. But realistically, if you're just starting out growing, you don't want to pay a joker to test your soil and tell you what it's all about, because it's expensive and really quite unnecessary.
Very.
Now, Rachel, as a new grower, for soil, what I would recommend is that as a new grower, you would go with just whatever tickles your fancy commercial soil. And when I say commercial soil, what I mean is that Fox Farm, Pro Mix, 707, Humboldt Zone. There's as many types of dirt as there is bread. But, and there's really no difference in.
Well, I mean, if you do any kind of.
Go.
You're frozen.
She froze. Oh, there she goes.
Okay.
She's back.
You're back.
Did I lose you?
You're back now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can, but you're like on the screen.
Know that there's tons of different soils on the market and that you need to pick out what you've got. Oh no!
It's so crazy.
I can still hear.
We might have to end up doing this episode again, but yeah.
If my internet keeps jacking me up, I think I'm just going to leave the stream and let you guys have it, because I don't want to jam it up.
Well, I think. Well, try to stay in there, but if you got to drop out, no worries. For Rachel, what I would
try and come back.
Yeah, yeah. What I would recommend for Rachel, as a new grow me, as a new person that's new to growing, I would recommend a Pro Mix or a Fox Farm or something like that, only because it has nutrients already in it.
Yep.
She's not a dummy. She's graduated high school and all that other stuff, but it's for the first week or so of the use of that soil, you can actually relax on. You don't have to actually add any nutrients.
Nope.
If you do, you're going to see that the tips of your plants, the tips of your leaves are going to start curling up and turning brown because you're newting the shit out of them. Now, for me, I'm an intermediate grower. So for me, I might be able to freaking go with some garden soil and actually use bat guano, bone meal, compost, and actually make it what I want it to be.
An amended soil.
Exactly. Now, Gina over here, let's say she's the super purity expert. And what she's going to be able to use is yard dirt. And what I mean is she's going to be able to take any dirt, figure out what nutrients, what freaking pH she wants it, and add her bat guano, her bone meal, and all
Well,
of her worm castings in proportion to get her soil to where she wants it. Now, since we're only really dealing with freaking new growers, by and large, you're going to want to stick with that commercial soil. Not because this is sponsored by Fox Farm, because it absolutely isn't. If it was sponsored, we wouldn't be having these internet issues that we're having right now. I guarantee that.
Very true.
But with soil, there's with pre-mixed soil, pre-nutriented soil, it's very easy to just step into growing without having to know a lot, simply because that company has a team of experts. And what they did is they got together and said, hey, we need this much perlite, we need this much bat guano, we need this much bone meal. And they said that's the right mixture. So for the first week or two of using that soil, you can actually just use water. But then as you come and start wanting to use, as you start to get your nutrients in there, you're going to see, you're going to use, what I like to do is in the first month of using my soil, and I use Fox Farm Ocean Forest, so it definitely has nutrients in it. I go at about a quarter strength of any nutrient manufacturer's recommendation. Only because, yes, they may not get enough nutrients. I understand that. But we want to ease those plants into your nutrients.
Yeah.
A lot of first time growers will go out and they'll get Ocean Forest or Happy Frog and they'll put it in their pot, and that's great. And then they say, okay, this is a first week seedling. They look on their Florinova Grow chart, expert drain to waste. I need this. Bam, 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 bam. And they put it in there. They follow the instructions to the letter and they put it in there. And they're like, my shit's burning. My little tiny seedlings, the leaves are turning brown and they're curling up like they're dying.
Because they are.
Well, yeah. Exactly, because they are, because you're freaking trying to give them so much nutrients, you're just cramming it down their throat. And I guarantee you, if you measure your runoff in that first month will have more nutrients coming out of it than you put into it. Which is weird because it doesn't make sense to spend that extra money because it's hurting you in the long run. You're, to a certain extent, you have a chance, even out of a small plant, overloading it with nutrients like that, getting a nutrient lockout, or actually even burning it up and just killing it.
Kill.
Because, and
when in doubt, flush it out.
Exactly. And that brings up one of the best pieces of grower advice that you can give somebody. Some people you need to keep a log. Okay, that's important.
A journal.
Be regular. That's also important. You need to talk to your plants and check them daily. That's important. But no matter, if you can't do any of those things, I guarantee you, even if you do all of those things, at one point in your plant's growth cycle, you will have a problem with that plant, whether it be leaves curling up or down, spotting on the leaves, freaking leaves turning brown and dying, your plant's freaking taking a nosedive where the leaves are drooping, and the best cure-all that you can do for that plant when it has a problem is flush it with water. And what it does is it to a certain extent it resets it. It pushes all those nutrients away from it, so we take the nutrients out of the equation, because a lot of times plant problems and issues are nutrient related. For lack of a better term, they're operator induced error.
Unless you're overwatering, which is also an operator induced error, but flushing a plant if you're overwatering is not going to help things.
Well, here's the thing. One of the things that's important about flushing a plant is I keep all of my plants on little platters so I keep the runoff. When you're flushing that plant, you want to let all that water that you're flushing through it flow out of your plant. Some people go as far as to not stop flushing it until they see clear water coming out of the bottom. Some people go as far as to try to get it down to the pH of the water that they're putting in.
See, now my question was, is flushing helpful when you have live soil? Because the idea is that you're using the natural organic nutrients as part of the soil. You're blending a mix, or you're getting a mix that already has what it needs, even though you can do additions to it.
Flushing living soil is absolutely never recommended for the exact same reason that you talked about. Okay. We haven't gone into it because most new growers aren't gonna deal with it. But let's talk about it. Living soil. What a lot of people don't realize is you can take any old soil, preferably rich, fulvic garden soil, which means it's just dark brown or freaking almost black.
Dark soil is what you want.
Take that, and you can add eggshells, grapefruit rinds, and a bunch of different other things. And as that decays and compost, it will release beneficial bacteria and beneficial nutrients from the breakdown of the things that you're putting into it.
Your NPK, if you will.
Exactly. Exactly. Now,
I actually read a DIY how to make your own super soil, because there's stuff out there like Fox Farm, but that's what it is it's a super soil. So you can do a DIY where you start with your own generic garden soil with nothing to it. As long as it's dark and airy, you can just add the natural ingredients that will create that nutrient level for you. But then you still have to look at additives later on, because your plant needs different nutrients when it's flowering versus when it's vegging, when it's growing its plant base.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just thought it was cool that there was a DIY option, because like everybody knows Fox Farm, but Fox Farm is hella expensive. So if there's a DIY route that's more cost effective, then hey.
It is. Because, let's say that, a lot of people, they do outdoor plants, and Gina knows this, they do outdoor plants. They'll put it in a 20-gallon cloth pot. Do you know how many 1.5 cubic foot bags of Fox Farm that is?
That's a lot of bags.
It's like 21 of those bags.
There's only like 1.5 cubic feet in a bag, right?
Yeah.
So you need
Ocean
you can get bigger bags.
And Fox Farm, the Happy Frog is 2.5. Or
2, okay, 2. But still, that's 10 bags at what, like $60?
Yeah, well, no, they're freaking we're talking $12.99, $13 a bag.
13 to 14 a bag, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, depending on where you're getting it from.
Every now and then you can find it for $11.99 on sale, but don't count on it.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, like 10 of those.
And that's what sets a lot of new growers back, is when they say, hey, I want to do a couple outdoor plants. And then they say, okay, the person tells them, what you need to do is you need to go and get yourself a couple of 20-gallon cloth pots and some clones. And then,
too much, my man. That's too much, my man.
Yeah, it's like,
slow your roll. Slow thine roll.
Yeah, because Yeah, first off, you want to graduate that freaking clone in a smaller pot so you don't end up wasting nutrients trying to water 20 gallons worth of dirt.
Oh, that's interesting because I was thinking you don't want to move your plant once it sprouts. When you're trying to build roots, the more you handle it, the more likely you're going to break it. So I was like, oh, that's smart, but that's not smart because that's crazy.
Well,
If
it
you
is and
start
it
out in
isn't.
that size, because
It
there's
is
no
and
way to
it isn't.
contain.
Transplant twice.
Mm.
Well, see, me, I transplant more times than that.
Root and then into its final destination. And then,
Okay.
And then that's it. And then like mycorrhizas and root enhancers, things like that, to help take the plant roots out instead of from it going from a small container to a bigger container.
Mm. Okay.
See, me, I go in from rapid rooter or peat pellet.
Well, yeah, I'll start him
Solo
in
cup.
a root riot or something.
Yes, solo cup, 1 gallon, and then 5 gallon or wherever they're going to be. And you can do that without touching their roots because what you want to do is you don't want to wait till that plant is root bound.
Yeah.
So when you transplant it each time, ideally, you don't want to be touching the roots on the outside of it. What I like to do is I kind of let it dry out the day before I transplant, flip it over, kind of tap it around the sides, take it and set it down in the dirt, and then kind of put the dirt around it, water, saturate it with nutrients real good so those roots want to spread out. But some people, they just take it
and they break the roots apart.
Yeah, they squeeze the root balls and shit. I'm like, what are you? And you know what? I can't say they're wrong because most of the people I see doing that have huge plants. But the one time that I've done it, my plant died. I don't know if I grabbed the root ball too hard. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. But the plant died. So for me, I don't do that.
You know why that plant died? It's because it was male. You grabbed it by the balls, it's dead. You grab that male plant by the balls, it's out.
And one of the most important things is a lot of people think because if they want to put a plant outside, they want to put it in the ground, but their soil in their yard is absolute trash.
So just dig a hole and put in there what you want. It's not hard.
Exactly.
That's what you can see.
A soil conditioner as well.
You can dig a 3 foot in diameter hole, fill it up with your soil of choice, and that 3 foot wide by 2 foot deep hole should have more than enough good dirt in it to grow your plant out.
Well, and for the root, there's a lot of like gardening that crosses over into growing weed just because growing is growing. And so
Absolutely.
like with fruit trees, they need very specific nutrients. And so when we planted our fruit trees when I was growing up, you put all of the stuff in there that the roots need, and then eventually they'll spread out and be acclimated to what's going on around them. But with the root spread in gardening, to get a natural root spread, especially with like trees, what you do is you create a deep drip, a saturation where you want the roots to climb to. But I don't know it applies here, but it'd be interesting if you had like a drip line around the outside of your pot and then had like that slow moisture that was if the roots would gravitate out that way like you want them.
Most outdoor growers, I don't know about here, but in California, most outdoor growers, they do use drip lines. They use irrigation lines simply because, if you're from California, they're not just letting you just turn on the hose and spray your shit down. It's going to be some lady talking about, hey, there's homeless kids that can't take showers because you're trying to water those plants.
Well, and that's just it, is drip lines are a very effective, deep root, water efficient way to water plants. You get the desired results and you're controlling the moisture still.
And I think if the only reason that you wouldn't do like a drip field for marijuana plants is because fruit trees, normally they stay there, they're perennials.
Well, so
usually they year after year.
Yeah.
And I've seen a couple of people do it, have a marijuana plant produce year after year, but only in very mild climates where it doesn't get that cold.
Makes sense.
So, because most people at the end of the thing, and this is up for debate, at the end of the season, a lot of outdoor growers pull their plants up by the root.
Okay, I mean, you could theoretically keep that root going.
Well, no, they pull the whole thing out of the ground. They just pull the whole thing out.
They're just done. Chuck it.
And
okay.
Some people, I don't know, some people say it's better for the plant. I don't know. I haven't really experimented with it. But I will tell you this. Most of the people that are pulling it out by the root and drying it with the root, there's a couple drawbacks. It takes an additional long time to get that moisture out with those roots.
Yeah.
And it increases your drying time.
Yeah, that's
Now, don't get me wrong. You don't want to spend all that time growing these plants and talking to them and breathing on them and then rush the dry and cure and your plants taste like shit. Because most people, they have great plants up until they try to dry and cure them.
Which is insane because it's just like keep the area dry, try to dry them out. Don't fuck with them. Don't let moisture.
Put them in the microwave.
What?
Oh yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing that people try to do.
One thing that I did read is that a lot of people who do outdoor grows will rinse their bud in the bathtub like situation to get all like the grime off, which makes sense to me.
Washing your weed.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it like, do you see gross stuff in there? Did you see that viral video, the hats in the bathtub with the borax and the hot water and just like all the grime that came off it? It looks like that.
I am a firm believer. I am a firm believer in washing your plants.
Okay.
Different buckets of water. I can't remember what the first two, and then the final one's water, and then it takes all the shit off of it.
Yeah, I use a 50-50 of peroxide and water.
I was like, it's a mixture.
Okay.
I couldn't remember.
Because the peroxide will dry to oxygen.
Well, that's perfect. It's like alcohol, but you don't want to put alcohol on
it will dry with no residue on your plants. Nice. And it also, the bubbling action of the peroxide will eat at all the dirt and grime and make it want to come off. So when you do those first tips, the first dip is a 75% water, 25% peroxide. The next dip is a 50-50. And the last dip is just straight water.
How do you get that much hydrogen peroxide? It seems like a lot because if you have a really big like branch, you need like a bucket. All right.
Hey, I've been known to roll up to Dollar General and buy like 10 or 20 bottles of peroxide. Only because I use it for fish tanks too. But it's one of the few things that you can use to clean stuff that doesn't leave a toxic residue. Okay. A lot of times when we clean our tent in between cycles, we wipe it down with peroxide because that peroxide, when it dries, it's only going to release oxygen.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's only going to release oxygen as it decays. Now, anything else, there's a lot of organic stuff you can use out there, like Simple Green, you know what I'm saying, and all that stuff like that. But in my experience, no, I haven't found any organic cleaner that when I wipe it down, leaves no residue and doesn't give off fumes or fragrance after I'm done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because inside my tent, I gotta worry about light shining on it probably, at least 12 hours a day. And what ends up happening is that just from the ambient constant heat, it bakes that onto the freaking coating of the inside of your tent and lowers its reflective value. It's pretty. No, we're talking all this craziness, but it's really not that serious. If you use enough cleaner to decrease the reflective properties of the inside of your tent, it's probably going to kill your plants before it deprives them of light. Hi, Brendo.
Oh, she's so cute and in your space. No.
As long as she doesn't touch my skin, we're okay.
Now, a lot of people are wondering, there's other types of ways to grow, and there's hydroponic, there's aeroponic, there's manufactured medium, but each of those deserves its own hour of chit chat because there's so many different things. One of my favorites is rock wool. I don't even know where that shit comes from, but
It's like fiberglass.
yeah, it's like fiberglass, but it's non-toxic, it's absorbent, and it doesn't put off anything that will kill your plants, which is kind of weird to me. Because if you know how they make fiberglass, they make rock wool the same way. It's just like a chemical, and they freaking take it back and forth, and they mush it, and it makes these little threads, and then they cut it into pieces.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? That's okay to use on my plants? But it actually is.
Have you seen the way that they make this special silk? It's like one stem, and they just like twist they crack open the stem, and then they twist fibers out of it, but you can only get like so much from one plant. So you have to like harvest all these stalks and like make it. But it's a plant-based silk, which is weird. I feel like that's the same way. It's like how you get like what out of what?
Yes, and Chris is right.
Really?
That rock wool, yes, it has asbestos in it, but the asbestos that it releases is trace amounts. And like he's saying, and it's basically a type of the old asbestos insulation. It's just heated at a different temperature.
That's weird. That's trippy.
It's so crazy because insulation is highly crazy to the human body. It's it'll get in your lungs, get all irritated, you'll be coughing, it makes you itch. But rock wool, made the same way and to a certain extent, basically the same thing, has a totally different set of properties to it.
Yeah.
And that's why it deserves its own hour. Because, soil is simple. And that's why I wanted to start out with soil, because soil is simple. Everybody knows what soil is.
To an extent.
The average person, if I grabbed a block of rock wool and took the white wrap off of it and showed it to them, they would think it was a sponge. That's what I thought when someone showed it to me the first time. I'm like, what the fuck is that? How am I going to grow plants in that?
I had some guy ask me at work if he could grow his seeds in like a couch cushion. No, I'm not. No, I mean you probably could, but no.
In a couch cushion?
Like
not
molten
but
like
basaltic
the material
rock
that it's made out of.
Yeah, because rapid rooters are similar to the same thing.
Molten basaltic rock. That rock wool, that's trippy.
I think he was asking me if he could literally like cut his couch open and use his own shit. I mean, if you want to get on it.
I mean, technically, that's true. You could. Yeah,
if you want to see grown in farts.
It's just gross to me. I'm like, don't do that.
No, he shouldn't do that. But he said, could he? I mean, yes. You could.
It's possible. Just throwing it out there.
I don't know. I see mold issues, but
oh no, it's completely nasty. You absolutely should not. There is no reason why that should ever be an option. That's disgusting.
Think about how many old
what you could. People's skin cells. No, you got to go way past like the farts. It's the skin cells, all the debris, all the nasty. That is, I will not buy secondhand couches just because of that. All the crap that people bring on them and shuffle into their couches. No, I will not have secondhand cushions in my house. No.
If you've ever had the Kirby guy come to your house, that's the reason why you don't want a couch from the Salvation Army.
I ripped up the carpet from my master bedroom so that we could lay down some flooring and get rid of the nasty old carpet. It is the most foul, Disgusting. Hell no. Hell no.
Did you replace
Ugh.
the carpet pad too?
No, it's gone. We put down brand new. We bleached the floor. We cleaned it. Hell no. Hell no.
Did you see that house that freaking Gina posted earlier?
No.
I would, oh man, beautiful house on the outside. They tried to evict some people, destroyed it on the inside.
Like,
Was it the one that's going for 600,000?
Oh,
No,
I don't think it's going to be going for 600,000.
Close enough, man.
It's probably going to be more in the 5-digit range.
The one with all the dead cats and feces.
Yes, dead cats, feces on the ceiling.
Not the kitties, gross.
Disgusting. They were like locked in a bathroom. Creepy.
Poor things.
I don't know how you would do it, but can you turn up your? I don't think you can. Turn up your volume.
Gina?
I don't think she can turn up her volume.
Yeah, well, my volume is not going to make me louder.
That's true. Gina's pretty chill, especially compared to us.
Yeah, because we're fucking. Yeah.
Unless I'm drinking, and then it's a completely different story. I get amped up. I'm just tired.
Hey, and it's like you're back at work because we're talking about soil.
I'm like, I'm at work again. Like, it's my Friday.
That's why I'm not like, hey, Gina, what do you know about soil? Tell us all about it.
That's funny. Oh, have you heard of adding gypsum, or I think it says kaizenite?
Hyzonite?
Kaizenite?
I know tomatoes really like the gypsum. So yes,
okay. Now, gypsum I've heard of. The other stuff?
Yeah, well,
flavor.
It says that it's the micronutrients, so that you're getting like more feed for your plant, because it's beyond just like the nutrient levels. This is micronutrients, is what it was talking about, like an added bonus for a DIY soil if you do it. But I was curious if you guys had heard of it, because all the stuff I'm reading, there's conflicting information everywhere.
Oh yeah, and they're coming out with all these micro and nano nutrients at a microscopic level, and this and that and the other thing. I'm old. I'm trying to learn about this new stuff, but there's a lot of it.
I'm just really excited to start my first grow, because it's the more I get into it and the more I research, it's kind of like all of my mid-grade gardener stuff is coming into play. So I'm like super pumped to try it. You know what I mean? It's not just like, it's not like overwhelming, because a lot of it does like cross over.
Well, I want to do a group plant. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a plant, and people in the group are going to vote on what kind of nutrients we use, what kind of whether we grow it in soil or hydro.
No. Okay.
Because
yes. Oh, heavy metals, because bone meal was one of the additions for the DIY soil that they were talking about.
Yes.
Manures have heavy metals. I guess that makes sense.
Because more and more people are consuming freaking heavy metals along with their stuff, and a lot of animals are getting these heavy metals in them now as well. And it's just like, 100 years ago, fish were totally cool, but now they're saying they're full of mercury.
Oh my gosh. Did you watch the documentary about the fish that are in the fjords? All the fisheries that they have there? All the Norwegian fish in the UK, they will tell you that it's Norwegian fish because of all of the pests. They use a bunch of chemicals to keep pests off of the fish, because it's fish farms. And so what it's doing, there's so much chemical in the fjords where they grow the fish that the fish are starting to mutate.
Norwegians were cool. I thought they were all about the environment and shit.
I know, it blew my mind. There's a whole documentary on it. I was just like, and it's because the fish that are affected are fatty fish, and fatty fish they hold all of those chemicals in their fat. So it's not even, the chain goes so far because it's naturally in the ocean. And then these fish that are like getting infected are like the fatty fish that are at the bottom of the food chain. So your fish's meal, all this way up the chain is making it to other species because they're eating these specific like fish. It's just it's batshit crazy, dude. It goes
crazy.
So far.
and you know what? And it's a lot of people will say that, you know, you don't have to worry about that stuff with your plants, but they don't realize that marijuana is a super accumulator.
Right, exactly.
So,
it's like fatty fish. It's going to absorb everything and retain it. It's not going to let it go because it's a fatty fish.
So, talking to you, Monsanto.
Shit.
I've been looking at plants and I'm super excited because I've been comparing like what I want, and I finally got on Seedsman's the other day, just kind of researching all the online stuff. I like that they have a catalog. They tell you the grower, and then they kind of like they have a picture of the plant, because that's the most exciting part for me is like, what does the plant look like? Not necessarily what does it do, but what is a good starter plant? And the consensus that I've seen has been Northern Light for the most part. But they also said, let's see here. I took notes on it because I was super excited about it.
Go away.
Let's see here.
No.
I think it was indicas are better with the cold.
Yes.
And they're the short fat plants.
Yes.
I was looking at indica strains or something that's a little bit more, because a lot of strains right now are blended genetics. It's not just like straight sativa or straight indica. It's a combination of it. So, DC Bank, cool. Well, Seedsman's is like they do a cup, and so there's a plant that I found, and I like it's called Dark Devil. And so like when you click on the pictures that they have there, it actually gives you the genetic history of the plant, and then it'll give you like percentages CBD, percentages THC. I just thought it was really cool because it goes into like a little blurb about the plant. So if you like look at it and you like it, you can see if it's more sativa or indica dominant, and then what its genealogy is, so you can actually trace it back, like where the plants came from. And so Dark Devil it's a cross between Big Devil XL and Purple Auto. And then it said it was aided with Buddha seeds, which I'm not really sure what that means. I was thinking like cross genetics, it was aided with Buddha seeds. Is that what that means? And then it says it inherits its color from Hindu Kush. So that's like its whole genetic like history. And it's really cool because it's an auto. And so they said like from seed to harvest, it's like 8.5 weeks. So I thought that'd be a really fun grow, and a lot like it was pretty straight across the board consensus. It said that it's about 22% THC, and you won't get a lot of buds, but the buds that you do get are like super killer. They're like definitely worth it. But the plant is so cool. It's all like dark purple. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
That's gonna be awesome.
I was like, oh my gosh, I found my seed.
and Chris is absolutely right. It takes forever to get seeds in the mail.
Yes.
Even if they come in 10 days, it's like every day you go out and look at the mailbox and you're like, did my seeds get here yet? Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know. And also they're overseas. Like they have like geneticists run like providers that are in like Spain and stuff. It just sounds cool.
And you know what? There's a lot of seed banks that are in Eastern Europe, Amsterdam, and weed's not legal there. I want to make that abundantly clear. Weed is not legal there.
Huh.
But
Seedsman did have a long time.
Well, you have a lot of botanists there who like weed, and they use their skills to get some of the freaking best crosses, because Amsterdam has one of the largest flower markets in the world. They have basically a flower auction 5 days a week, and the flowers that are there in Amsterdam are at their location, where at their end location, whoever's going to wholesale them within 24 hours.
Nice.
Which is kind of crazy. It's
See, I'm okay with waiting a month, especially if I can like pick what I'm gonna grow and pick what I want.
Yes.
I'm totally fine with waiting a month for that. I think it's worth
that's
it.
the thing. The alternative is I bought some weed and it had some seeds in it. I don't know what they're gonna be. It could be a hermaphrodite. It could be some old BS.
And
whatever.
Expensive as shit.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yes. Spain, just as a side note, Spain is very conducive to the marijuana business. Juicy J's are made in Spain. Freaking a lot of freaking seed, like he's saying, a lot of seed producers in Spain are basically from Europe and the United States, because Spain is one of the most conducive places to grow and be in the marijuana business. I used to, one of my partners, he owns Loud Seeds out of California. And all of his seeds, he took his whole operation to Spain. Now, all of Loud Seeds seeds are produced in Spain.
That's crazy. Well, I mean, they got to have a killer grow season, because
yes,
Spain is also very like hot and dry. There's a lot of Spain that's like farmland too, so it's perfect temperatures for growing.
Is so awesome.
Yeah.
And apparently the government's super cool.
I'm down with
it. Yeah, might be. I know that they were talking on their website about having producers, and they'll actually tell you who's providing the seeds too. They'll do like the full like history on it. You click on that plant, you're gonna know who produced the seeds, what the crosses were, what percentages it is.
That's important. Because a lot of times you get a seed from some guy who says, "Oh, this is freaking, this is chocolate Thai crossed with freaking GDP." While that may be true, it's unstable as all get out, and it can produce something that's mainly GDP or mainly chocolate haze. Seed breeding requires several generations of crossing back and freaking eliminating bad characteristics to stabilize those characteristics. And that's why seeds are so quote unquote expensive. You can't go down to the local Home Depot and get a pack of 50 freaking GDP seeds for $1.99. It'll never happen.
No.
Because, there's one thing about the marijuana business, and one of the ways that marijuana is different from other plants is nobody's trying to make corn cornier. As long as it's corn, it's totally fine. Bam.
I would like mintier. I would like chocolatier.
Exactly. I would like to order that shit up. Let's go till the tomatoes are tomato-ier. But that's not a real thing. As long as it's a tomato, it meets the criteria. You don't have fancy people with their pinkies up talking about, "Oh, the flavor of this is too harsh. Yeah. Is that organic? Blah, 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 blah." No one cares.
It's the same thing with wine grapes, generational stuff, to get exactly what you want, breed it into the plant.
Exactly, because
like
you're gonna end up with literally, out of every 10 plants that you're growing, you're gonna end up with 8 that you can't use. So you just wasted your time and nutrients growing those plants out, and for some reason they don't have any traits that you want. You may have to grow them, harvest them, and smoke them to actually see if they're what you want. And then, if they're not what you want, you have 8 plants that aren't what you want, and you've got these 2 that you've got to cross back together and hope that you reinforce those positive characteristics.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Like Chris is saying, it takes at least 5 generations of crosses to stabilize characteristics.
And Chris is saying that it doesn't matter. You out of 1,000 seeds, you maybe get 1 that's an awesome plant that you want to keep reproducing.
Exactly. Most of it, you're getting what would seem like a freaking good thing, simply because different plants are bred for different things. There's a thing called California hash plant. Looks absolutely horrendous growing. Looks like freaking ditchweed. but it's not made for smoking. It's a high yielding plant with a lot of trichomes with little to no flavor because it's designed to produce big buds that you can make hash out of.
That's crazy.
So if you're smoking some California hash plant, it's probably going to taste like shit because that's not what it was designed for. It's designed to make hash out of.
That's crazy.
And the thing is with the technology now, technology is the push or the driving force between all of this marijuana knowledge coming out because the dissemination of information is so easy. Just like now, anybody tuning in can learn about soil. Even if they never knew anything about soil, they can learn about soil. They can go on YouTube or Skillshare, and I'm sure somebody on there will tell them exactly what they need to do to grow the very best weed.
So when you have a mother plant that you're cutting clones from, as long as you keep the mother plant healthy, then technically you're making generations with a plant that's stable, right?
Not necessarily true. Because with the mother plant, like let's go back to our 10 plants. Mm-hmm. Now our 10 plants that we planted, we had to clone them because even though we're going to harvest them, depending on what plants they are, we still have to try to reinforce positive traits. So now with those 10 plants, I have to clone them. I now have 20 plants. 10 I'm going to chop down, taste them to see if they're what I want. And if they are, I'm going to take a couple of those plants and try to cross them back to each other. Now, here's what's crazy. In order to do that, I need male plants.
Yeah.
So now those 10 plants that you're trying to breed just turned into 40 plants that you got to grow out to reinforce the positive traits that you want.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why seeds are expensive.
So clones can reproduce. So you can technically call a clone a first generation, or does it have to be from seed?
There's been some debate.
If your clone is breeding and you're making seeds, then technically isn't that like first generation?
Well, yes and no. And what I mean is that clone is going to be an F1 of the mother. Okay. Now, every mother that you get for ease of freaking use and just to keep down on the nonsense, every clone you get is going to be an F1.
Okay.
Because growers lie.
Sure. So, because what I'm thinking is if you did mother to clone to seed, then if that's considered the generation, then you would be able to stabilize a lot faster than having to grow generation after generation. Right?
Not really, because
as long as the mother's stable, the clone mother.
And like Chris is saying, it's only the generation of the seed. So whatever seed that freaking clone came from, that's the generation of it. Now, crazy part is as you start cloning, there's a myth that as you start cloning a plant, you will decrease its characteristics. Absolutely not true.
I don't see why that would make sense.
It doesn't, because it's what's known as an old wives' tale, or I think the technical term is bullshit.
There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those from old growers. But there's also a lot of old growers who have a ton of like super deep like tips and tricks. How do you discern?
And it's only because the flow of information. The flow of information 30 years ago was way slower than the flow of information now. And if they're like me, I've got a way that I grow things, and it's cool and all. But there's better ways to grow. But unfortunately, as an old person, I'm lazy, and I want to do it the way that I've always done it. Not necessarily because I'm lazy, but because I know how to handle easily problems that come up. It's like when I use Fox Farm Ocean Forest all the time. Now, I know throughout the life of my plant what Fox Farm Ocean Forest will do to that plant when certain things happen, so it's easier for me to correct. And don't get me wrong, there's no blanket statement of something that's good for every instance because every grow space is different. Whether it be from the climate, whether it be how hard it is to heat and cool that particular space, whether it be what kind of light you're using, or even what type of cooling you're using. So
one of the things that I've seen mentioned a lot is even if you get a good nutrient ratio going that works for one plant, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for the next one, and that you have to constantly adjust, which is why you want to do journaling. And they said another important thing is to never stop journaling, because even especially in the bad times, you should be recording what you're doing, what corrected it, what you figured out, so that you can go back when you see it again and then just eventually know what's going on with that.
Yes, because and a lot of people say, well, I shouldn't keep a journal because I just started. Absolutely untrue. Because everything you write down is time saved later down the road. So if something happens and you're using the same setup that you did in your last growth cycle, you can refer to that journal. And if it happened in the last growth cycle and you were able to fix it, you can fix it on the first shot without having to try a bunch of different other bullshit.
See, so Chris, you're saying genetic drift from chromosome damage, but what you're doing is taking a cut of a plant, which is essentially just like a plant, starting it and then breeding it. So wouldn't that not, I mean, I don't understand like the chromosome damage, unless you're talking about mother to clone to seeds, mother to clone to seeds.
I know exactly what he's talking about. Genetic drift is basically you're getting characteristics and traits that are popping back up into your plants that you actually weeded out. And those are the variations that you're getting back and forth. And a lot of people call it chromosome damage, but it's really just a variation of you're getting traits coming back into the pool that you eliminated before. And what's happening is just like, I guess the best way to say it would be from freaking chromosomal damage. It's because you're cloning a plant, and what's happening is you're getting I use a freaking 75%. You're getting 75% of what you want, but you get to a point where you start having characteristics come back in that you don't want. And that's that freaking genetic drift that he's talking about. You start straying from the mark of what you set out to produce.
That's why you do the back breeding, or you interbreed and then you back breed if the next generation is shitty.
Yes.
But you have to get to the next generation to figure that out.
Most plants, once you find that strong characteristic, you want to immediately breed it to itself. So you've reinforced that trait before you actually breed it to something else. So that's how you've got from 10 plants, you have to have 40 plants.
Okay. So how long do you think you should grow in order to feel like you're astute enough to decide that you like a plant and you want to try breeding it?
You can start anytime. Because what it boils down to is if you like a plant, it's highly subjective. So you're basing that off of your personal preference. And what I've always done is even when I started, I've picked out plants that I liked and that I like to grow and I like the taste of them. And you can see your maturity as a grower freaking going forward based on the plants that you are picking. Because as you get more experience with your plant.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. As you get more experience with your plants, your taste and what you're looking for changes. So, when you're first starting out, I was just looking for a plant that produced mad buds. I said, I need a lot of weed. But I found out that I could get a lot of weed, and I could do that with Miracle-Gro. But yeah, I had a lot of weed, but when I smoked that plant, it crackled and it popped and gave all kinds of different colors. It tastes like absolute ass.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so even though I got what I wanted, I didn't have enough skill to know that I didn't want that.
So stress testing for my plants. To get the more buds, right? You want to do the low stress training, the LST.
Yes.
If your plant's already bushy, does it kind of defeat the purpose? Don't you want to try that with like taller upright plants, rather than just like bushy plants, because they're already kind of like.
What you want to do, even if a plant is bushy, you still want to use that low stress training, because with that low stress training is going to give you more bud sites. What you're doing is you're taking plant stalks that are growing up and you're leaning them to the side. So what's going to happen is every node that comes off of there is going to go straight to the light. So it's going to go straight up. So it's going to give you another bud. Yeah.
So you're talking about. I didn't.
Because he's talking about putting his plant through the places. So instead of being super nice to him, he's kind of hard on him. So he produces a healthy plant. Anything that doesn't make it is not strong enough to cut the mustard. So a lot of growers, the weaker plants, even the plants that are doing fine, if they're weaker than the other ones, they'll go and chop them down simply because they're not getting their money's worth out of them.
Okay.
So to a certain extent, it makes sense to stress your plants out, to put them through the paces, so to speak, because you want the strongest and hardiest and healthiest of plants. I've got one plant in there now, and we call it the zombie plant. It's about 4 months old. It's only got 2 leaves on it. I should throw it out, but I just want to see what it's going to do. And exactly, culling is the correct term. Freaking, you're getting those plants out there because a lot of people, all the female plants that they have, they will grow all the way out. And unfortunately, that's not the most efficient use of their time. Because why am I going to waste nutrients and time on a plant that's not as productive as the others? Let's say it gives me some seeds. It's going to produce seeds that aren't productive as the others.
And so that's what you use when you're breeding to see if you should use those genetics moving forward. You use the stress testing.
I think you should do it in general in your grow if you can, because what it's going to do is it's going to concentrate your efforts. So if you have 10 plants and 7 of them are doing awesome, you've got 3 duds, take those duds and get them out of there. So that extra 30% of time, nutrients, and expertise, you can heap on those other plants and maybe get them to be a little bit better. So, because you'll find that growing, just like farming, it's not hard, but it's a time-consuming business. Right now, I have 40 something plants with all the clones. So I spend about 2 hours a day, every day, freaking watering plants, freaking making nutrients, adjusting pH, adjusting freaking humidity, because it is what it is. I'm only going to get out what I put in.
If you want to reap the extreme rewards, not just the mediocre rewards.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong. Every grower that grows weed knows that anything can happen. I've had a lot of it happen. Spider mites, powdery mildew, caterpillars, people stealing your weed. It's freaking.
Oh my God.
Anything can go wrong.
That's
every
so
time you grow weed, you roll the dice.
That's crazy.
But a lot of times you come up great, but probably 20% of the time you come up all craps.
It goes sideways.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's very hard to understand that even the person with the best grow regimen, that's growing the best plants, the biggest, fattest, most flavorful buds, every now and then they strike out. Ask them about it. If they're truthful, they'll say, "Oh, this one." They'll be like, "Oh, let me tell you about this one time." Yeah,
this motherfucking plant.
Yeah, but the thing is, they take it in stride, because now that that's happened, they just use that experience as a chance to prevent that from ever happening again. Because if you're a commercial grower and you lose a crop, you lose thousands of dollars. And that's how you pay your bills. So,
not an option.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, we're freaking rolled a little bit past the hour, but a freaking good show nonetheless. Once we got past all of our technical motherfucking difficulties. But yeah, roll with the punches.
There we go.
This week we touched a little bit on soil, and like I said, we're not going super in depth because these are intended for people that are new to growing and they want to get into it, because it's just like having a race car. There's so much shit you can do, but there's not a lot of shit you have to do. And the only thing that limits you most times, just like race cars, is money. You can go as fast as you have the money for, and you can grow as many plants as you have the time and effort and money for.
Yeah,
they may not all be great, but yeah.
Because, time and energy.
And that's the thing. A lot of people only count the money that they spend, but unfortunately, you're looking at, for 10 plants, you're looking at a minimum of at least an hour a day. And it's not like, well, maybe I'll do it. Because if you don't, your plants are going to die. You're going to produce crappy weed. But yeah. Anyway, we've talked about all manner of things. Monsanto, powdery mildew, Fox Farm soil, yard dirt, which is one of my personal favorites. But yeah. You ever see a backyard that's all brown, that's got that hard packed dirt, so you know if you fall on it and hit your head, you know you're going to split your skull open? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Even that stuff, with the proper amendments, you can grow great weed. But yeah, I'm not Chris Duty. Hold on. I am Slizwack. This is Gina and Rochel T, and we are from Go Here Smoke This, and today we've talked about soil and why, because you should grow. We'll see you again next week, and next week we'll go into hydroponics and aeroponics. Have fun, kids.
Later.